live. Let's see, do we have a chat? It says there's 13 people in the room, 4 thumbs up. But so far I can't see any comments. Let's see. Okay, thank you, Chase. Now I know we got an audience. Okay, so if you have time in the next 48 hours, there's a film that's been recently released, and it's still free to view online. There's a timer on it. It says there's about 2 days left on the timer. Again, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., it's been out for almost a year now. He put out a book, The Real Anthony Fauci. And I was talking about this book when I got it. It's full of really great information and research. And the downside of reading it is the print is really small for the book. And he said it was because his publisher wanted him to do it that way, to cram in that much information in that size of a book without making the book larger. I'm sure when it comes to a publisher, they know like when you've made the book too big. But unless it's Harry Potter, I suppose. But yeah, they just made that book into a new film. It's parts 1 and part 2. Part 2 is about an hour and I think maybe 10 or 15 minutes, a little bit shorter. But it's really well done, and it's super impactful for anyone who's looking for information, who has questions, who's on the fence about what's going on, who doesn't know what to think. It is loaded with really good information and research. And a part of me wants to think that my book, Number Games 9/11 to Coronavirus, inspired some sections of the film, because he starts drawing parallels between what's going on with this and what happened after 9/11. But I mean, I'm sure plenty of other people could draw those same parallels. But yeah, the movie is very well done. If you do a web search for The Real Anthony Fauci film, I'm sure the main website will come up. You'll know you found it when you see the countdown for how much longer you can watch it for free. And then I'm not sure what's going to happen after that. I don't know if it's going to be something you have to pay to watch, or buy the DVD or Blu-ray, or download the video file. I don't know what it is, but right now it's free. And if you have the time, I recommend watching it. I've been doing my work today and listening to it in the background. My eyes haven't so much been on the screen. I'm sure it's even better if you're looking at the screen, but it's even the kind of film you can play in the background and just listen along, because the information's good and it's well spoken and narrated. And yeah, one thing I really like is at the end of part 2, it's like the final 15 minutes of parts 1 and 2, the very end of the second part. Robert Kennedy Jr. says that he thinks the most important speech in U.S. history is the speech by Eisenhower when he was leaving office about the military-industrial complex, and how if it's not checked, it can grow into becoming a nightmare. And I've always talked about the military-industrial complex, and what blew my mind when I learned gematria was the numbers behind the phrase military-industrial complex. And of course, the phrase military-industrial complex in the most simple cipher, A is 1 up to Z is 26 equals 322, which is that very important number relating to Kabbalah, relating to powerful secret societies like Yale, Skull and Bones. The other day I was talking to Kayla, and I was surprised that somehow she hadn't gotten this piece of information yet. But if you guys didn't know this country was kind of formed out of something that happened on March 22nd in history, 322, the Jamestown Massacre. Go back and revisit this piece of U.S. history. Don't quote me on the year. It was before this was a nation, but it was March 22nd, 1600s, Jamestown Massacre. And out of the massacre, which was blamed on a local Native American tribe, and keep in mind, this entire village was killed, not a single survivor, and people came upon this massacre, and it was immediately blamed on the Native Americans. So there was no proof that the Native Americans did it. just the European settlers assumed, well, who else would slaughter a whole village? Fellow Europeans aren't going to do this to each other. But out of that massacre, which happened on March 22nd, 322, this infamous number in history, don't forget when the member of Skull and Bones, George W. Bush, was in president on March 22nd. It was like a movie that night on the national news networks as we bombed Baghdad. What a showing for old 322. But out of the massacre, the Jamestown massacre, there became this idea that there should be a new identity for the settlers in the new country, and that's where the name Virginia was born out of. Virgin, new world order. But Virginia, and of course now we have Maryland and Virginia that surround the nation's capital, like Virgin Mary. We all know what just happened to the Queen on the Virgin Mary's birthday. But anyhow, they need a part 3 of that, Kennedy, and they need to do a follow-up with yours truly. Talk some more about the royal family and the crown virus, and it all started in King County, right next to the big Space Needle in Bill Gates' backyard, where all these people fit in. But yeah, it was March 22nd that was, kind of sounds like a false flag, right? Kill everybody in the town, and that's what pirates do, right? Knights Templar, pirates, Catholic Church, Jesuits, history, maritime law, this nation. But again, that's what pirates would do. Pirates would go and kill everybody and then stick somebody else's flag there to make it look like their enemy did it. So everyone go, oh my God, what a horrible group that bunch is. Let's get justice on them. But yeah, out of the March 22nd slaughter came the idea of creating a new territory and a new identity and more unification and defense from the local threat, the Native Americans. And look what happened in time. Pretty soon, the Native Americans were godless heathens without Bibles who must be exterminated, And again, you just, the manipulation of people. We saw the exact same thing on 9/11, Total con job, blamed on a boogeyman in a cave. It was like a litmus test to make sure the cultural stupefying of America had worked. Have we put enough poison in the food, water, entertainment, education? And then, they run the test and they say, indeed we have. Job well done. But this is what we got to change, you guys. And again, I've just been trying to brainstorm ideas. I've been grinding away since I did the last video talking about meeting the illustrator, and he's excited about the prospect of this, and I'm excited about the prospect. So I hope something beautiful is about to be born. But I just been thinking, what is the right way? Because again, you guys, I recently got the letter in my P.O. box. Jennifer, she said, you got to create like a children's style book series, one number at a time. The one number at a time is an idea. That could actually be another type of Gematria children's book story, one number at a time, just going through numbers. But it could also be like a children's book story revisiting important moments in history, and maybe some that haven't gotten the attention they've deserved, like, say, the Jamestown massacre in light of the number 322. Maybe that children's book begins with a drawing of Tim Russert asking Bush and Kerry about the odds of both being in Skull and Bones 322, only for them to report his death not that many years later at 223. But maybe that part's too heavy for children. But again, it could be like a children's style book series that's really for adults or even teenagers. You don't want to get too heavy for, I don't know. When I look back, my parents got pretty heavy at all times, and in some ways, it was definitely not always good, but in some ways, to be exposed to everything at a young age, I think was a blessing. But, just for the record, you guys, I'm sparsely seeing a comment. I've seen, I'm not even trying to read about it out of the corner of my eye. I've seen, almost no comments. So, it says people are here, but for some reason, I cannot see the comments. But yeah, I was just thinking about, what if one of the series is just going through important moments in history? Like the military-industrial complex speech. Really highlighting the quotes from that speech and about how it could grow to be a nightmare, and showing how that number 322 is showing up all over history in terms of, terrorism, militarism, and all these things that just, if it's terrorism, it just contributes more to militarism. It's like exactly what he warned about. And did somebody tell Eisenhower to use the phrase military-industrial complex? Did he come up with that himself? But yeah, I was just thinking, imagine a short children's history book on the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., another one on the assassination of Malcolm X, or maybe it's just one book. Maybe it's Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, a number of other related assassinations, up to number 40 for Obama. I'm just imagining these short books. Maybe they're like Dr. Seuss books. They're no more than 20 pages long. They got an illustration for every page of words. There's not too many words on the page. There's a good amount of information. Each page will just kind of blow your mind one more time. And then you get a nice illustration too. So I can tell my illustrator, though, I'm pretty sure he likes Trump. So we'll have to see what happens. But and that could be it too for the Times. Just get out some current books on the election of number 46 weeks after the Pope's birthday. I think the hardest thing for these books really will be having the right title, just making sure the title's perfect. A title can make a big difference. Sticks in somebody's head, makes them want to pick it up. Yeah, and if you have like a coffee table and you like having something on your coffee table at your house, we almost put out these books like magazines is the way I see it. Have at least one new version each month. It seems like writing these books will take me less time than doing a YouTube or doing a decode of a recent story and then presenting it. I could probably write the book in as much time. It'll take longer to get out the illustrations, but yeah, this could be an effective way. And I think we got to get things back in print, you guys. I think we got to get things back in print. We got to make it like cool to have a book again. So we got to make people want to read again. Finally, a comment comes through and it says, did you cover the St. Louis, Missouri school shooting yesterday? For that person and everyone else who has to ask questions like that, all you have to do is click on my channel and click on the videos tab, and you can see exactly what videos I posted in chronological order. And you would know the answer to that question is yes, I did. And again, you guys, you're not going to get notifications for my videos. You're going to be lucky. You're going to be in your YouTube app, and you're going to see that somebody's live in your subscription feed. Almost nobody's getting notifications. You guys really need to learn how to use the platform. It's not that hard. It's a few clicks. Click on the channel. Click on their videos tab. See what they've covered lately. Again, that's why it's exhausting, just working hard and having almost nobody realize the work. My own website stats, GematriaEffectNews, doesn't get that many views each day. The YouTube videos, less and less. And again, people still haven't figured out how to check to see if somebody posted a new video. So, yeah, Donald Trump is the cartoon president. He does belong in a cartoon book. So, but yeah, in the comment section, if you guys have any great ideas for, just imagine these short books, you're hitting the top bullet points for that event in history, its relevance, showing, the ritualism with the numbers. So I think in a way it's perfect because it's like children still do like to read books. That's what I thought about. The one group that still enjoys a book is a child. And I think that's even changing with all the screens. Some children right now might prefer to look at the night screen or whatever the parents are calling it. Here, you want your night screen? But yeah, children still like having books read to them, And if you're a parent out there and you want your child to live in a better world and wake up to what's going on, start planting seeds. So maybe that'll be the goal, to write the book in a way that would be appealing to a child and even still an adult and be informative for both. It's tough though, because little children, they're on a different cognitive level. I don't know. We'll get it right, but these are all the things I'm brainstorming on. And is it best to do it with just like number by number or event by event? And I think there's a place for both, really. I was thinking about that. If you could learn to write it like a nursery rhyme, like Dr. Seuss, that would be helpful too. That would make it take a lot more time to write. Like I said, I could bang these books out and write them well with good information, but you want to take it that extra mile and make it have a jingle or a rhyme to it. You know what, though? I'm always trying to inspire other people, If somebody else out there can, like, improve on it and make it more like Dr. Seuss. Actually, you can't even say Dr. Seuss anymore, right? Dr. Seuss is racist now. Dr. Seuss is racist. Get those Dr. Seuss books out of the library. It's like, if you don't like Dr. Seuss's work, you know what? Write something better and say, don't read that anymore. Look, this is better. It rhymes better. It's funnier. It's more relevant. My pictures are better. This whole cancel thing is just the worst. And by the way, when I was watching the Robert F. Kennedy film, I was thinking, like, I wonder if I did inspire some of this. A lot of this really feels like exactly the way I put things and the way I connected things. And I can't believe you just brought that up in the film too. Wow, I made a big point about that in my book. But, and I was like, well, maybe, if I did inspire it, that's good because it made his film better. But then at the very end of the film, he's got like a shout out to J.P. Sears. And I was like, man, this is what I'm talking about. It's like only certain people get recognition. J.P. Sears gets to go on Fox News and all these news stations and, all these interviews. And then Robert F. Kennedy's shouting him out at the end of his documentary. It's like, I didn't see anything in your film that looked like it was remotely inspired by J.P. Sears. And I don't have any problem with J.P. Sears. I think he's done a good job getting out the word and making people think about things. And he is a funny guy, and people need that. So I respect all that, but it's just like, is he in the club, this J.P. Sears guy? Why does he get to go on all these shows and get the shout out again? And it just reminded me how the Robert F. Kennedy rally was on the Jesuit orders, or it was on Georgetown's birthday, January 23rd of all days. And that's the one thing missing from his film. He doesn't say one peep about the Jesuits. He doesn't say one peep about gematria or the numerological rituals or why COVID-19, 19 years after the 19 hijackers on 9/11, even when he's connecting the two things. I mean, there's a few things he definitely could have got into, and again, it's reminders from this powerful political family, Kennedy. But yeah, it's just like, man, the same people are always getting the recognition, and then it feels like some of us, we're just getting our material bit all the time, and we can't get anyone who has a platform to give us a shout out, even though J.P. Sears hasn't really had to deal with censorship. Meanwhile, yours truly has been deleted, how many more times have I been deleted in the time of the pandemic? Quite a few more times. Wasn't I on like channel 18 or something when it all started? I've lost track now. There's just been too many deletions. But yeah, anyway, if you guys have not seen The Real Anthony Fauci, the film, again, the book is great. It's just really small print. It's like you need a magnifying glass to read it. But, and I haven't finished reading all of it, but I have read parts, and it's dense with important information. If you have time, you should read the book, because there's things that I noticed weren't in the film that I read in the book. And like, it gets it more into the nitty gritty of the kind of stuff Anthony Fauci's been authorizing taxpayer dollars for. If you guys don't know, Anthony Fauci, he spent imagine this, finding out that somebody spent millions of taxpayer dollars on getting these genetically modified flies that bite a lot and carry some kind of illness, and just putting dogs in a cage and locking them in with these flies to see what happens to the dogs. It's like, what in the world? I mean, and of course the military's been experimenting with insects and crap like this for a long time. So it's not like Anthony Fauci started it. But still, who's the I mean, imagine the kind of person that has to be like, you know what? Instead of spending millions on that community in Baltimore that's been in the shitter for the last 50 years, let's spend it on the GMO biting flies that'll kill those dogs and see how long it takes. You know? And again, you guys, this is why government's a sickening thing when you really look at it. Again, that phrase, absolute power corrupts. So he left that out of the film, but he's got it in the book. And I don't know why he left it out of the film. I mean, it's pretty standout research. But yeah, anyway, if you guys do watch it, let me know. Does his film remind you a lot of my book, Number Games, 9/11 and Coronavirus, for people who've read it? Because there are some things he brings up and the way he puts it together, I'm like, I feel like that came right out of my book. So, but yeah, I was also going to say about JP Sears, again, way more popular because people prefer to be entertained. But at the end of the day, he made people think about government tyranny, but to get a shout out at the end of the film, it's like, and he gives too much credit to Tucker Carlson in the film too, which reminds me, there is a club and we're not in it. But again, Tucker Carlson has been, again, to even have Tucker Carlson in your film, I don't care if he's been the most right nightly news person. The guy is a scumbag, and he's the exact reason why we are where we are, because he's the same person after 9/11 who went on the TV and demonized everyone who questioned of it being an inside job and acted like it was impossible for your government to do anything like that to you. And that's because he's a little Republican butt plug, and Bush the Republican was in office, and that was his life, going on and demonizing people who were questioning the attack, just like all the other scumbags on Fox News. And again, we're right where we are because of that attitude. But look at him now that, you know. So, yeah, for him to give a plug to Tucker Carlson, too, is just, But I still got to endorse the film, even though I don't like these things. And that's for what you guys who criticize things and then throw out the baby with the bathwater, you got to stop doing that. The film is good, you know, the Tucker Carlson thing, at least he's got quotes Tucker Carlson saying things that are true. But people should remember who Tucker Carlson is. He's a guy that's responsible for us being right where we are today. And so many people think he's some truth person right now. I mean, you guys don't know anything about anything. And that, you know, again, a lot of you guys just woke up and you need to keep your opinions to yourselves, because I'll say things like that and you guys will be here to be like, what are you talking about? Tucker Carlson is the truth. It's like, oh yeah, Tucker Carlson's the truth. Yeah, for the guy who just pulled his head out of his ass in the time of the pandemic. Yeah, maybe so. Not for the guy who's been awake for 20 years speaking out. Tucker Carlson represents exactly why we are where we are, calling people like me names on TV. You know what? He's pretty much Anderson Cooper. He's just like Anderson Cooper. Anderson Cooper's been calling people names who didn't go out and get the COVID jab. You're not a real man. And then as he says that, this segment sponsored by Pfizer. You know what's good in the film is he should have had that in his film where because these guys who are, you know, the Kennedys of the world who have these big teams next to him, I'm sure they have the CNN footage of Anderson Cooper going on his rant about you're not a man if you didn't get jabbed. And then it goes to commercial sponsored by Pfizer. I was like, oh my God, man. We live in the most unreal time that anyone could be inspired by that and then goes to Pfizer and you're not questioning. You got to be some kind of special stupid. And, but yeah, Anderson Cooper was essentially doing the same thing after 9/11. So, or not Anderson. Yeah, Anderson Cooper's been doing the same type of thing the whole time for all sides. But I mean, Tucker Carlson was pretty much doing the same thing, covering up for the people responsible for that agenda. So, anyway, what else was I going to say? I know I had something else to say. The comments are finally showing up. Maybe you guys just weren't commenting earlier. Yeah, and notice the way CNN operates. CNN all day, their front page today, it's been a kind of story you haven't seen for the entire pandemic. If you go to CNN's front page, unless they've changed it just recently, but it was that way from early in the morning up through when I just, finished my little chore today to do this live stream, but all day, CNN, one of their top stories has been about the side effects from the COVID vaccine. And they're saying it's because it overstimulates the antibodies for some people. So if you read the article, nowhere does it talk about a potential side effect of like the people who've dropped dead, just how some people it's actually making them get a fever or a cold or the chills. It's making it seem like that's the worst case scenario for side effects of the COVID vaccine. And you just see that's the way they work, right? Because they know their audience might be picking up on some of this buzz about doctors speaking out, like the cardiologist who's all over the place right now talking about how after his father got jabbed, his heart shut down and died rapidly, and his father was a very healthy man, and they're both doctors. And, Fox News right now, who gets to play the good cop in the time of the pandemic, they've had that doctor on in recent days. But now you see how CNN operates. And again, Fox News, CNN, they're all run by the same people. They know they're just keeping the country divided. You guys, we appease you with this information on the red side. We appease you with this information on the blue side. But anyway. I still know I had another thought that I need to get out there, but I forgot it. All right, here. Let me interact with the chat for a bit while I can't think. Imagine this children's book series. Each one is like a piece of history that people should know about. Like Event 201. Event 201 could be a good one. Overlooked history that's so important to the times. Like if you were going to do your first children's book on one piece of history that you thought every child should know about and have some information about in terms of how it's impacting their life today, what is that piece of history? Yeah, rewrite history. I actually had the same thought. But what's the first book you would do? Columbus? Like rewriting Columbus? Howard Zinn kind of did that already in a big way. Privilege, huh? The movie was released. Federal Reserve, yeah, that's a good one. The Titanic retold. Rick James. 9/11, yeah, 9/11 indeed. Obviously at 9/11, yeah. Lincoln's speech after the Civil War, yeah. Okay. America's independence. Retold, yeah, actually that's a good one because a lot of historians do not know why July 4th was chosen. I mean, you talk to most historians, they'll tell you July 4th really doesn't make sense. So maybe that's a good children's book, making sense of July 4th as America's Independence Day. Yeah, that could be a good one. Absolutely. JFK, The Five Spies. I don't know that one myself. Civil War and Real Causes. Chase, Eminem has a song called Kill Shot. Okay, to look into that. Bill Gates' birthday, of course, October 28th. Indeed. Happy birthday, Joseph. Joseph's 39 today, so I'm a little bit older than Joseph. Shout out to Joseph. I got to meet him in Detroit. If you guys missed Detroit, man, we went all over that city and checked out a lot of interesting things. The day in Detroit was very memorable. Shout out to the people in Detroit. The disasters with the space shuttles, the moon landing, the moon landing, the illuminated moon, and the landing on the 201st day. Yeah, we got to get the titles just right. Thank you. We got the house that Sweet Lady liked. If we would have had it my way, we'd be in a different house because it had land. So that'll be the next project, to get a plot of land and start growing a bunch of food. Try to create a community garden. So the good news is the house that Sweet Lady liked was less because it didn't come with the land. So Jeremy White says, people would like the America's Independence Day one, kind of like National Treasure movie. They would want to find the secret, etc. Yeah, maybe that's what we should do first, because again, it really does bring clarity to why the nation's birthday is 7/4. Tucker Carlson was also an intern at the CIA. I got to look that up. I know Anderson Cooper was. I didn't know that about Carlson, but it would make sense. They both used to be on CNN. Tucker Carlson got his start on CNN. Malaysia disappearing plane. Yeah, something tells me we still haven't seen the last of that story. Let's see. I hope I come back to Detroit and all these places. Indeed. Yeah, I don't feel like I saw enough in any of these cities. Eloy, I will look for your email. I got to figure out which email you sent it to. I don't have a street mailing address yet. That's what's awesome about this house. This house is like the Twilight Zone, literally. I do not have, the post office refuses to bring the mail here. They said they'll do it when they decide to. And I'm just like, but I have a mailbox and an address, and I pay taxes, and we moved in. And the post office said, well, you can get a P.O. box here. And I didn't do it that day because I just felt like, what in the world? Are we just like to this new point where just like government and corporations are extra abusive because they've never had so much power and control? But yeah, I was like, normally I like the post office, but I was like, what in the world? You guys will not deliver mail to my house? You'll just do it whenever you're ready to? So I don't really have a street address for mail right now. That's why, again, people can continue to use my P.O. box in Yakima. That's the address I got. I'll be back in Yakima tomorrow, so I'll still be stopping by there every so often. It's not too far away. Okay. Okay. My mom is an unbelievable person. Mom, you don't need to be putting out like people's public names and stuff in a YouTube chat when there's a million trolls around, hanging around, trying to dig up every inch of our lives and look into everything. I mean, God. Oh, man. I think they were doing some serious experiments on the children born in the 1950s after the World Wars. Something, the fluoride was coming and everything. But, yeah, I also already told you that I'll take care of it when I have an address that works. So, again, moms will never stop treating you like you're 7 years old. For all you young people who are already sick of your mom, count on it for the rest of your life. But War's a Racket by General Smedley Butler. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, the guy who just wrote that about my mom's probably one of the chief trolls. Thank you, Wick News. I appreciate that. Confessions of an Economic Hitman is a good book, John Perkins. It doesn't name anything specifically, but gives you the gist of what's going on in the world. So, okay, coming back though, ideas for the books. Nobody else had any other ideas for the books for great pieces of history to target? I think you got to be smart about it too, like releasing them at the right time. Because isn't that kind of how people are with information? They're like, oh, that information's seasonal. I'm more interested in that right now. So maybe that children's book on July 4th is better released, you know, when summer rolls around in the excitement of the build-up. And maybe that's the perfect time too, because that's when children are getting out of school. Parents might be looking for a book on that kind of history and subject, you know. Myron C. Fagan and his work. His name is very familiar to me, Myron C. Fagan. I feel like I was checking that out at some point. I'm waiting to hear back from Dane Calloway. I definitely sent him a message, and from what I understand, he's a busy guy too, so, you know, when he is free, I'm sure we will link up. I am looking forward to that. What's up, Fake Mike Real News? Fake Mike Real News went to the loudest club I've ever seen in the daytime. I was like, man, they do it different in Rhode Island. Got to see what Rhode Island's all about. My mom, what she just wrote, she's talking about the movie Confessions of an Economic Hitman. That's her favorite book because she got to meet the author. So she likes the book. She thought the author was handsome, so it instantly went to #1 all time on her reading chart. Do one on Jeffrey Dahmer? Yeah, that's what everyone's into right now, right? You know what I almost also want to figure out how to do, but I don't know if it'd be a way to fund the movement. I wonder if we could start our own publishing company and just get lots of people in the community interested in writing and find some good editors and some good illustrators. Imagine if we were just manufacturing knowledge-based books all the time, just trying to appeal to all ages. Somebody said out of the book could easily come like some kind of card game. Somebody said do a pop-up gematria book. So, yeah, exactly. A book on the coincidence of the drug war, and then all of a sudden these really cheap, addictive drugs showing up in all these poor communities. Isn't it amazing how every tragedy that happens in the country, it's always the poorest community that gets hit the worst? It's almost like there's an agenda. It's almost like they're putting it in movies like The Purge, where The Purge starts on March 22nd. You see, that's what I mean. Those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it, right? The Jamestown massacre that gave birth to the nation happened on March 22nd. How many people know that part of American history? Or did I say American history? I meant to say American history, unless I said Native American history. But it's related to both. Yeah, Behold a Pale Horse, that's a good one. Eloy Garcia's got a link to check out, Myron Fagan. I'll check it out, Eloy. I'll remember to check it out. I know that name. It's just in my mind, I can't exactly remember what he wrote about or is known for, but I know that I've crossed that name. Well, what's funny, Marcus, is we were planning to go to Burma when she finished school, but it's not safe to go to Burma right now because of the war. And you know what else is funny? What I wish you guys could see what Sweet Lady's Facebook looks like, because people in Burma are just raw. They're like a totally different people. They're just like no filter. You know, they're when somebody dies, they're really focused on death. They like to share pictures of, dead bodies that, it's just. But something just happened over there that got no news coverage. A giant bomb just went off in a market there and killed hundreds of people, and there's no news coverage. It just happened this Sunday. But I've seen the photos from it. And again, I mean, you look at the photos that Sweet Lady has on Facebook that actual people took of all the dead people from where the bomb went off. Again, I've never seen anything that looks like that in the news media when they're trying to persuade you that a whole bunch of people died. I mean, you can tell that these pictures are real. You can tell that you're looking at dead people. But she's so used to looking at stuff like this because they're always sharing death over there. Even before this thing happened with the military, like she'd be like, look at this ceremony they're doing. I'm like, I don't know. They're like, I guess they make us softies in America because we're not used to looking at stuff like that. But honestly, I don't like looking at like the pictures of these dead people and decomposing bodies. It grosses me out. It gives me like a bad vibration. And I've always known that about myself. I'm squeamish. If I wasn't squeamish, I probably would have wanted to be a doctor when I was a kid. But I've always been squeamish. And but yeah, it's nothing for her to look at it. But yeah, a huge bomb just went off over there. And it's near her hometown. It's in like the bigger city that's close to her small little village town, which isn't a big city. But a huge bomb went off there. Hundreds of people died. And again, no news coverage of it. And it's like, and that should remind you what the news is about. How come sometimes the news wants to show you that a bomb went off somewhere and a whole bunch of people are dead? And then other times they don't even cover it at all. But yeah, try to look for, Burma is Myanmar for people who don't know. They're the same place. It was always called Burma. They more recently called it Myanmar. And yeah, just look from this Sunday if you can find any news coverage of the big bomb that went off in the market that killed hundreds of people. There's zero coverage. There is a story in the mainstream from about a week before that of a smaller bombing, but they didn't cover the one that just happened. And yeah, again, you guys, remember, it's just weird that sweet ladies from, if you guys don't follow me on Twitter, to go back to January 1st, 2021, I posted in the opening seconds of January 1st, 2021, if you're on the West Coast. If you're on the East Coast, to go back and look at the tweet, it'll probably show that it was at 3 a.m. because you're on the East Coast, 3 hours ahead of me. But I posted in the opening seconds as it was New Year's out here on the West Coast. And I said, look for a big war ritual this year with the number 21. And again, that's because in Gematria, war equals 21, Jesuit equals 21, evil 21, Bible 21, speaking of a book full of war. But recall what happened on February 1st, 2/1. That's when Burma's military overthrew the government, and a greater civil war broke out in Burma. If you didn't know, Burma already had the longest ongoing civil war in the world, so it's only gotten worse, and that's why there's been so many people that came over there as refugees. The United States began taking refugees from Burma in 2008. The same year they began taking refugees from the countries that we destroyed with the war on terrorism. So it makes me think that something related has been going on in Burma all this time. But again, the thing that was so interesting is on February 1st, it ended up being sweet ladies' country of all places. And then I looked into it at the time and I said, wow, look at that. I said the government that got overthrown was established on September 27th. The day the Jesuits were recognized by Roman history, and we were respecting this Jesuit military ritual, and then it comes on 2/1, and it ends up being her country. But then Captain Tom died the next day, who was known for the Burma campaign, and he died exactly 201 days after being knighted. And again, the weird thing about all this, but I think it's all meant to be, and it's going to end up being a beautiful story in the end, especially and it'll teach a lot of people a lesson for all the people that sit there and talk crap. But again, I wasn't happy that Sweet Lady decided to go into pharmacy school, and this is before the whole pandemic, and it got even more tyrannical, but obviously Big Pharma is ultimately a bad thing in the world. So when she decided to go into pharmacy school, I wasn't super excited about it, and I encouraged her to stay on her planned path at dental school, which also has its drawbacks. But she really wanted to do pharmacy, and she explained why. She thought she wants to bring knowledge back to her own land, because over there, it's like whatever drugs arrive in the mail, they just give to people for whatever problem, and people die all the time from taking the wrong medication or too much medication or being prescribed the wrong thing. It's just like, it's the medical Wild West. It's like Big Pharma drops off their extras over there in third world Burma, and people will just pop in their mouth from whatever somebody else tells them to take. So this is one of the things she wanted to, bring this knowledge to her community. So, she had some righteous intentions. But in the time she's been in school, she's seen what's going on, and she knows it's wrong. And again, I just find it funny that, the Big Pharma, of course, they had the Event 201 simulation right before the pandemic. You know where I was staying when I was just in New York? I stayed in the cheapest area in town that's next to the World Trade Centers, which is just across the river in New Jersey in the 201 area code, which is also where the majority of pharmaceutical companies, or where the most pharmaceutical companies in any area code are headquartered in the world, in that 201 area code in New Jersey. And again, we were in New York, educating about 201, what's going on in the world, the pandemic, 9/11, 2 towers became 0, became 1, all this stuff. But, she just finished school while I'm doing that. She's getting her first job. She's going into essentially this 201 industry. And then, someday I'll tell the rest of the story, but you can probably already put the pieces of the puzzle together yourself. But yeah, I just find it so funny. I probably never would have found Gematria had Sweet Lady not got me to start reading the Bible about 10 years ago. And because it just reminded me about the importance of numbers, and that there was more to numbers. Again, if you've never read the Bible, it's full of all sorts of very specific numbers, but there's no explanation. And it's kind of like the news media, using very specific numbers with no explanation of why. About 47 people died. Like, you read sentences like that, you're like, about 47? I could understand about 50, but not about 47. I could understand a sentence like, So far, authorities have counted 47 deaths, but I cannot understand a sentence like about 47. And these are the kind of things you'll see all the time if you actually pay attention and you think about things. And you don't just read it and just read over it like you're trying to get through the whole story without processing any of it. I think that's kind of what school teaches us to do, to just like read through information to get through it, and we don't really learn how to process it or think about it. But anyway, she sees how corrupt it all is now, and like I told you guys, she's actually at the pharmacy now, and she's advising people that maybe they think twice about getting that poke, maybe go home and do a little more research on that, and make sure this is what you want to do. And a lot of people are coming in and asking for certain drugs, and she's giving them a tip. She's like, if you just do this with your diet, you can probably reduce having to use this medicine at all. And what she finds is a lot of people just kind of shrug their shoulders and say, it's easier to take the pill. And ultimately, when you think about that response, it's kind of like the American mindset that convenience is the ultimate most important thing. People are just doing everything out of convenience. And by the way, God, I thought the McDonald's was bad in Yakima. Man, Sunnyside, Washington has a double drive-through McDonald's. And it doesn't matter if I drive by there early in the morning, at night, in the afternoon. I'm telling you, I haven't seen less than 10 cars in that drive-through. And I feel like the average is close to 20 cars waiting in the McDonald's drive-through at all hours. And I'm just like, God, the food is gross. It's super expensive now. Fast food is not even, it's like cheaper to eat at a sit-down restaurant than fast food now. I don't know how people are still going to fast food. It's so gross, it's so expensive, and it's just so bad for you. I can't make sense of it. But God. And it's just amazing because there's a McDonald's like over every inch of America, and people are in their drive-through lines at all times. And it's like, is there a worse food option? I don't think there's a worse food option. But yeah, that's been blowing my mind too, how busy that with the double drive-through lane just packed at all hours. It's like we got to get there and hand out the books to these people. Here with your Happy Meal today that you still can't get over because you're a big kid, I got a little book for you to read before you go to bed. Don't forget when McDonald's started putting on their cups to go out and get vaccinated. It's like, even they know they got too many customers. Man. Yeah, it's amazing. Like, I'm just looking at that drive-thru. I'm like, God, they're bringing in so much money, man. Truth Vibration Podcast. I was watching part of your stream today, but I was super busy and interrupted, so I only caught parts. Dude, I think you're going through the thing right now that we all go through this time of year because there's like less vitamin D, our energy comes down, I understand why we're all bummed out about the world. But yeah, I was just watching, I was like, it's too bad he's feeling that way. I know exactly why he feels that way. Truth Vibration Podcast is a good guy, you guys, but today he was just saying like he feels like he's put so much in and he's lost so much for it, and now he has even more fines and legal problems. When we were in New York, doing the 9/11 thing, he was at Tyndall Air Force Base. And again, he brought a really awesome piece of research to the community. So it sucks to think that since he brought this to the community and went out and tried to bring more light to it, it brought more grief into his life. But that's kind of how it is in this world. Sometimes I think it's just supposed to be that way. I think this world here on earth is a test. It's like bad stuff does happen when you do good stuff all the time. It's like you do good things and it brings bad stuff into your life. You do the right thing and it brings something bad. I think in the longer run, though, it brings the same amount of good back. I think it ends up evening out, and you can feel good about what you've done and the sacrifice you made and all you had to put up with to do it. But yeah, he's just saying, he went to Tyndall Air. First off, if you guys don't know why he went to Tyndall Air Force Base, again, the Amalgam Virgo simulation of June 1st, 2001, with the cover document of bin Laden's face, that took place at Tyndall Air Force Base. And I'm just going to skip the whole gematria of it. That's a whole nother piece. But that Tyndall Air Force Base, it opened up on the day. Here, let me hold my phone straight. Sorry, I'm holding the phone. I don't have a stand, so that's why you can tell the wobbly video quality. I really should. Eventually, I'll have a desk again. Again, my other house is still not sold. So And the realtor said, keep it furnished because it looks nice. It'll help it sell faster. So I still don't have like a desk and stuff. All we have here right now is essentially a mattress and a couple chairs, and we're eating at the kitchen island. But eventually I'll have a desk and have a normal setup again. And the other thing is I realized I could stream through the computer right now, but I already used up all 25 gigabytes of my hotspot, and I did it in like no time flat. So I paid for the upgrade for another 25 gigs. But then after that, every 5 additional gigs becomes super expensive. And I'm not trying to spend $1,000 a month on, doing YouTube live streams. As much as I'd like to, it's just, I can't justify that kind of expense. I'm already shelling out the money I am for the website. It's just, if I had Bill Gates money, I'd spend $1,000 on doing normal live streams. But I can do them this way through my phone right now and not cost myself anything extra. So that's how it's going to be until I get more data and there's high-speed internet here. But yeah, that's what I said. Like, this house feels like it's the Twilight Zone in a way. It's not even that far from the main town, and it doesn't have high-speed internet here yet. It's not in the ground yet. The post office won't deliver here yet. I'm telling you, it's all because of the house number. It's like some weird life experience. In a way, I almost feel like I went back in time with the no internet around. But it's been nice because I've gotten Sweet Lady to we don't have any screens in here right now. All we have is our phones. But it's been nice in a way too. The less tech life. There's still plenty of tech, but there's less than normal. But yeah, just coming back to the whole Sweet Lady thing, man. I mean, just all this 201 stuff. It ends up being in her country. Captain Tom dies the day after Burma falls, 201 days after being knighted. Somehow Sweet Lady ends up in the big pharma world. I would have never known that when we first met, she was in undergrad, So she went all the way through college pretty much in the time I knew her. Again, she was old for college age because she came over from Burma older as a refugee. So she was behind like what you would typically be on the scale for going to undergrad and then graduate school. But yeah, the whole time we've been together, she's been studying away, and she made it to her goal. She fulfilled her goal. I mean, it's hard. Again, the reason most Americans, and that was amazing too, just being at her graduating ceremony. Almost no one was American that was in the graduating ceremony. Almost everyone was Asian or Indian. There was, what's amazing that actually blew my mind? There was more people from Africa than there were actual Americans in her graduating ceremony. There was about 200 people in her class. Maybe not even quite 200. It was probably, I don't know, under 200, somewhere between 100 and 200 people. It took a while to watch them all go across the stage, but almost no one was American. Again, like I just said, almost everyone was Indian and Asian. And there were about 4 or 5 people from Africa and like 3 white people with American names. I just thought, man, this is amazing. I knew it. I knew they were making us. I just knew it when I was a child that they were making us dumb in this country. It was so obvious to me. Everything. It's just, I knew it. I had this feeling in 2nd grade. That's what's painful to think back about. I first started feeling this way when I was 7 years old, that somehow people were dumber than they were supposed to. They were dumber than they were supposed to be, including the adults. And they did. They made us like the stupidest country, I think, in the whole world, man. How can we be in the United States of America and almost no one's American graduating at the American university? Somebody's like, there's plenty of Americans. Yeah, they all got communication degrees and political science. I mean, how many people go to college and get that degree? There's no point even going to college to get a communication or political science degree. You wasted your time. You got a whole bunch of debt. And you essentially burned 4 years of your life. Probably so you could party and drink on the weekend and have a good time, which is all right. But I mean, you could have done that and had a job and not got a whole bunch of debt and graduated with a worthless degree. And why do they put all those worthless degrees out there? Because again, they're making a lot of money off you. They turned you into a tax cattle. They got you on the hook. They're making interest on you. How do I get a house like this? This house is the same value my house is in Yakima. So again, it's essentially a swap once the other house sells. Ideally, I would not want to move right now while the economy's in flux and stuff. So, but yeah, This house is the same value our other house is, so we're just swapping houses. We're moving to the smaller town. But where I lived before, I never would have wanted to leave that neighborhood. That neighborhood was the perfect neighborhood. Everybody was friendly. It was actually nice living around a bunch of old retired people. Everyone's friendly. You're outside. The only thing that was hard was whenever I went out to do yard work, everybody wanted to stop and talk to you, which is all right. It's nice having conversations. And I'll tell you that one thing that was cool is I saw one guy at the beginning of the pandemic who was so terrified, who was like double masked, keeping his distance. He was always a friendly guy before the whole COVID thing, but he'd be outside going on his walks with masks on and didn't want to stop and talk anymore. But now that it's all over, he's back to his normal self. He got over it. So I was glad to see that. It was kind of sad. His name's Jim. He was a nice guy. Talked to him all the time before COVID. But during COVID, Jim was afraid, you could tell. And rightfully so, these people are old, right? That's who they were scaring the most on TV. Washington State said if you're above 65, when they shut down when it first started, they said if you're above 65, you better stay home. This disease kills people over 65 fast. Anyway, you know what? Today I went to the grocery store for the first time in this small town, and I didn't see a single person in the store with a mask on, and I thought, nice. It's been a long time since I was in the store without seeing a single person without a mask. And as I was going out into the parking lot, there was actually he was an older man as well, the group that's been made the most afraid. But he was walking into the store, and he had one of those N95 masks on. Isn't it funny how it's N95? Jesuit fingerprints all over this whole thing. Jesuits credited to counted the 95 theses in Gematria. Fauci equals 95. Again, if you guys still haven't read my book, go read what they did with Anthony Fauci and Garrett Cole when they opened up the shortened coronavirus season. Anthony Fauci threw out the first pitch, which was almost as embarrassing as this whole pandemic. And then Garrett Cole picked up his 95th career win, and he was signed that offseason by the Yankees on his 95th day of his age. And New York Yankees equals Society of Jesus, the formal title of the Jesuits. So. By the way, for the person who's not satisfied with my answer of how I got this house and how it's the same as the value of my other house, again, for the person who doesn't know, because I know people are always putting out false rumors about me, I bought my first house in Bothell, Washington at the very end of 2011 when the housing market hit rock bottom. And I got that house for $200,000. And when I sold the house, I got $500,000 for the house because the market super accelerated. And I honestly wish I hadn't left that house and never sold it, because that house is now worth over $850,000. Think about how crazy that is. I bought that house for $200,000, and had I bought it 20 years earlier, it probably would have been $70,000. But in just a few years' time, well, more than a few years' time, I moved out in the summer of 2018. I sold the house right about the cusp of winter, spring 2018, and then I had to rent it back because that's right, my house in Yakima got delayed. But anyhow, I got the house for $200,000 and I sold it for $500,000, and that tells you how much the market appreciated. I could have never dreamed the house would appreciate by $300,000 in, what is that? About 6 years' time. About 6 years' time, it appreciated $300,000. I did put a little money in the house, and I put in some of my own elbow grease and fixed things up and made things look nicer. So there was a little bit of home improvement, but it was mostly just the market appreciating. But the reason I was thinking twice about selling the house when I moved is because they were building. What was sad is when I first moved to Bothell, Washington has a lot of trees. Again, it's the Pacific Northwest. It's just north of Seattle, but they've been cutting down a lot of those trees for tract homes. And again, just a lot of bird species out there. But there was a huge woods area right across the street from my house. And a church owned the land. But the church, well, I guess what happened is the man who The father died and the son inherited the church and the property, and the son sold the trees to a real estate developer, and they started putting in homes, and then they put up a sign that those homes were going to start at $1 million. And this is back in July, or not July, or before that. It was like March 2018, the sign went up that when those homes finished, they would start at $1 million. I was like, wow, they're going to put homes in across the street that started at $1 million. Brand new, big construction, like 2,500 to 3,000 square foot homes. And, you know, that's the way real estate works. When something of value sells right next to you and it's worth a lot more, it drives your value up too. But man, had I hung on to that house from 2018, it's appreciated at another $350,000. So had I kept that house from 2012 to now, it would have appreciated $650,000. And you can look up the Zillow for that home. The address is just a single-digit house number. It's 232nd Place Southwest. Don't go to this person's house and bother them. This is my old house. I do not live there anymore. And the person who bought it, they have renters, and I don't even know who rents it now anymore. But 232nd Place Southwest, Bothell, Washington. And it might show the history of the sales all the way back to when I got it. But yeah, that's how crazy things have been in real estate. So I knew that when I bought the house, because I used to work in real estate, and I knew that was probably rock bottom. I was waiting to buy when I bought, and I was able to buy a house because I'd been saving my money for a lot of years and being smart. And you know, I've always lived modestly. Like, I don't have many material possessions. I don't travel that much. I mostly just save the money that I earn. And I've always saved the money with the idea of getting financially independent. And it's actually called the old American idea. That was the old American ideal, to save up your money and become more independent so you don't have to be somebody's employee, to be your own boss. And again, through that house, I was able to start my own business and a whole lot of things. But because I got lucky and the market appreciated from $200,000 to $500,000, I was able to sell that house and then pay off the remaining small amount of debt I had and buy the house that I had in Yakima for cash. And Yakima, homes are a lot cheaper because nobody wants to live in Yakima. And now I live in Prosser, Washington, which for the most part is also a place where people don't really want to live. So again, a home that looks like this with that kind of stove, I mean, in Seattle, this house would be $1 million, but it's nowhere near $1 million in Prosser. So even with real estate prices way up, it's nowhere near $1 million, not even close. It seems like a good value for a home based on everything, but it's because it's a tiny little town. So again, for the person who said, how can you afford a house like this? Well, it's a long story, I guess. It's saving, it's working hard, it's saving, it's being smart about things, it's getting a little bit lucky. You know, it's about buying at the right time. And I wouldn't advise anybody buy a home right now. I wouldn't be doing this unless I was swapping a home I already had, which is the case. So, but yeah, if you guys weren't with me when I first moved to Yakima, a lot of the broadcasts were in the kitchen. And, you know, maybe while I don't have an office and stuff, maybe what I'll start doing is I'll get some kind of camera so I don't have to hold the camera. And I'll start doing live streams when I make a meal. And we'll talk about eating healthier, just simple things. If you don't have a lot of money, how you can eat relatively inexpensive, even though everything is kind of expensive right now. It's like you used to always be able to get a box of pasta for $1, right? You used to always be able to get a box of pasta for $1. Man, a box of pasta is like $3 right now. It's like, man, pasta's 3 times as much. But still, you make pasta at home, that box, you know, I mean, if you have a bunch of mouths to feed, that box goes in one night. But, you know, if it's you and your sweet lady, that's at least 2 meals. The pasta. And then how do you make pasta? It's not the healthiest food, but how do you make it healthy? You know, put in some good ingredients. Put some veggies in there. Get some broccoli in there, some kale, some parsley, some cilantro. You know, some good herbs and spices. So, yeah, maybe we'll do some temporary talking about things and just how to make food that's not super expensive and affordable for the times, but maybe not super ideal in terms of eating the optimal health diet, but just things that are affordable and making it more healthy. Yeah, I just looked down and saw my mom said that she helped me save money when I was a kid. But my mom did instill in me that I should save money. My parents, they had me work and save money. So that was definitely, a good life lesson. I had to work for the things I wanted in my house. My mom can also tell you that the first computer, she might bring up that she bought my sister a computer, which is true when she went to college, but we didn't have any computer in our actual house. The first computer we had in our house, I bought with paper route money. So yeah, for all my haters, again, all I've ever done my whole life is work hard. Somebody says, your sister needs prayers. I don't know how my sister came out. Truth Vibration says, build your own computer. Yeah, I know smarter people that used to build their own computer. And that's something I've never tried to do. I never tried to build a computer. Yeah, exactly. And it could happen here. I mean, the hyperinflation could come here and our entire money supply could be destroyed. I mean, that's happened to a lot of people in a lot of countries in the World War era. Money's hyperinflate. People become desperate. The only job becomes the military. Somehow after the military, a new system's put in place. There's a new stabilized currency. And then people get behind the new regime, the new system. I mean, that's pretty much what's been going on all over the world for the last century. So are you talking about the Mississippi River Jackson flooding on Michael Jackson's birthday when they were going to do the new moon mission? And we talked about how the significance of Michael Jackson, the moonwalker, turning 11 the year of Apollo 11, and how it was lined up with his birthday. Top Secrets just had some. Hopefully you had some vegetables in there. Hopefully you had some vegetables in there. You guys, there's actually like an order of operations when eating. Like if you want to set your stomach up for really good digestion, you should eat like think about it. When you go to a restaurant, right? What do? They give you a salad first. That's actually, it's more than just a custom. It's a proper way to eat. Because if you put that vegetation in your body first, it just gets your stomach kind of churning, breaking stuff down. It's got some fiber in there now. And now when the rest of the food comes in, when you got the fiber in your body, it's like the mechanism or the ingredient you need to really break down the rest of the food and get the maximum efficiency. So again, you want to be eating plants in your diet. So if you're going to have just like some pasta with some ground up turkey meat in it or whatever you just said you ate that you said was very good, I'm sure it was, make sure you have like a salad first. But also I'd throw some broccoli in there or at least some parsley or some kind of veggie. Spinach cooks up into nothing in pasta. You can take a big bag of spinach, like right at the end when you're done boiling the noodles. That I used to eat that all the time. In fact, I might have eaten this meal more than anything in my life because even though I had pretty decent money in my early 20s because I had a good job out of college, I still kind of I've always tried to save. So I've always tried to eat like as well without spending a whole lot. And I used to eat a lot of pasta with spinach and parsley and a salad. I mean, I've probably eaten that meal, who knows how many, I'd have to count how many days of my life I've lived and how many meals, but it's been a huge percentage. When I was a bachelor, I ate that all the time. And the way I would always make it is I would boil the noodles, and right when you're ready to take out the noodles, just take a whole bunch of spinach, and in the same pot with the noodles and the water and the boiling water, just throw the spinach right in there and take a ton of it because it boils down to nothing. If you've never boiled down spinach before, you'll think you have the most amount of spinach, but then you put it in the water and it boils down. It seems like it all disappeared. You're like, did it fall through the bottom of the pot? Where did it all go? But yeah, just cook it down in real quick and then strain it out. Just make sure you don't overboil your noodles. But it doesn't take long for the spinach to cook down into nothing. And then you got a lot of veggie in there, And it's really better to eat the spinach raw. When you cook it, you lose some of the nutritional value. but it's still good for you. I mean, some people don't like raw spinach. I love I love raw spinach. I love a spinach salad. You know, one of my favorite foods is slicing up some strawberries, and there are better fruits than strawberries, but I love strawberries and spinach together. And you get just like a nice fruity vinaigrette. To me, it's like candy. To me, that is my candy. You know, some people might want like a bag of Skittles. I'll take a spinach salad with some sliced up strawberries. To me, that's like, it's almost like eating cake, but then I don't feel bad about it. And then my body doesn't hurt. I mean, I'm just like all you guys too. If there's like a nice, big, delicious piece of cake, I mean, it tastes good to me, but I know so often if I eat that piece of cake, my stomach's going to hurt afterwards. When I eat sugary stuff, I get, what do you call them? Canker sores. Like you get like a thing in your mouth. You can like chew on it kind of. It just like, I don't know what the right word is for that. But when I eat sugar, that happens a lot. And I mean, it just shows you right there, your body's like having a funny reaction to the sugar. It's like a sugar overload. Yeah, but anyway, I mean, if you just make healthy things that taste good, like your favorite thing, that's the nice thing too. Like if you have what people might call a boring diet, you're not eating a lot of sugary, junk food things, the flavor smash things. If you're eating just like simple foods, like avocados, things that are healthy but plain, it might make your mouth excited for when you have an apple, Sweet Lady and I have talked about this. When we have kids, we think we're gonna try to do our best to keep them from having like any kind of sugary crap, ice cream, cake, because it's so addictive. It's like if all they know about sweet stuff is fruit, like berries, melon, and you treat that as the special thing. I don't know if the Matrix is out there, but sometimes I kind of want to just have a conversation with him because I listen to his live streams when he's talking. It'd be nicer if he's talking to someone else. Because sometimes he's like, I think he's arguing that fruit is actually better for you than vegetables. And again, fruit has sugar in it, but it's nowhere near as bad as the sugar in processed foods. But I don't think he's right about that. If you're out there, yeah, right. I don't think fruit is as good for you as vegetables are. Because vegetables have a lot less sugar. And sugar, even in fruit, it's not nearly as bad as the candy sugar, but the fruit and sugar can take a toll as well. So, and there's plenty of vegetables that are sweet, almost like fruits, like carrots. I mean, to me, like another thing that, like if it's a hot day, put some water, some ice, and grind up some carrots and have like some cold carrot juice. Like to me, that's really good. And it doesn't cost a lot either. Even as expensive as things are, a big bag of organic carrots a big bag of organic carrots that weigh like a couple pounds might be $2 or $3 right now. You can make some good, nice, and it doesn't even have to be on a hot day. I mean, you can drink some room temperature water carrot juice. But yeah, I don't know. I might just show. Until I get like a normal setup, maybe just when I start having videos and things to talk about, maybe I'll also. I got to get a camera stand though. I don't even have a camera stand right now. I had a camera stand, but I think I left it the last time I was in Seattle. I misplaced it somehow on the Seattle trip. I got to get another camera stand. It's not a big deal. Anyhow, yeah, you guys, it is that season where, there's less vitamin D. It seems like that's what it is in humans. The reason we get sick more often in the winter is simply vitamin D, right? They call us the children of the sun. There's a reason people worship the sun. They realized once upon a time they're a lot safer when the sun's out. The nighttime predators, the big cats, they're not as dangerous. Snakes and insects, not as dangerous in the daytime. Plus, people probably realized their health was connected to the sun. They probably noticed in the time of year where it was colder and there's less sun, they seem to be getting sick. So when we don't have a vitamin D, vitamin D, it keeps us healthy in terms of our immune system. And I think it also keeps our energy and our vibration up. So, Truth Vibration Podcast. I was detecting that seasonal low feeling, and I was thinking, man, he's in Florida. He better be glad he's not up here in Washington State. We're even getting some gloomy days right now in Washington State. But yeah, if you guys are aware of like when you come into the seasons and how it messes with your mood, I mean, if you can be aware of that, it'll probably take less of a toll on you. But yeah, again, you guys, I was just going to say, because it is the time of year where people start getting sick, and we are living in an age where they want to get rid of us, and maybe they are releasing certain things to instigate more illness in people. Like, and here's what I wish some of you guys would stop doing. There's some of you guys who are 100 million% certain that there's no such things as germs or viruses, but you're also 100 million% certain that 5G is going to kill us. And it's like, I don't know why you guys go out to these lengths and take on these arguments where you really can't defend your position, and most of your evidence is based in something you saw in a YouTube video. I'm not saying these things are impossible, but again, if at the end of the day you understand that people can become ill and something's causing it, just ultimately be taking the most precautions in the seasons where you're most susceptible to becoming ill. So that means getting, a little more sleep at night, going to bed a little bit earlier, again, having good foods in your diet, make sure you're getting enough vitamins and minerals. That's the thing. Even if you eat a good plant-based diet, and I shouldn't just say plant-based. Again, look into the blood diet. Depending on your blood type, you can need different foods. But if you're eating a good, healthy diet, it should have plenty of green plants in it. If you have a good diet, if you're getting enough sleep, if you're maintaining your stress, you're going to be a lot less likely to fall ill. And remember, earlier in this year, they predicted it would be a really bad flu season, and they said COVID could reemerge, so it could be all kinds of extra illness. And again, I do got to admit, I'm a pretty healthy person, but in the time of the pandemic, again, I didn't go out and comply with any of the crap, but I did get a little bit more sick than I normally do. Again, November 2019, before they were even talking about COVID, a lot of people in the Pacific Northwest up in Bill Gates' backyard got super sick. Again, first sweet lady got sick. I was taking care of her for days. Then I got it, and it was the sickest I ever was. And at the beginning of this year, I got sick for the second time. So I've been sick 2 times since November of 2019. You guys might recall at the beginning of the year, I was pretty wiped out for a week, but I was still able to do my work. I just sounded off. I didn't sound much worse, though, than I did the week after New York, where I was trying to get my voice back. But, yeah, so, I mean, it is possible that there's going to be more illness out there. And, again, that's just reason to not live in fear, but just get enough exercise. Try to get as much. Again, if you live in a place like Seattle, where, again, anytime the sun peeks out, you should try to go out and absorb that sun. Doesn't matter if you're in the middle of a movie or something. Try to get outside and get some of that vitamin D. Because, again, it's obvious. It's what keeps us healthy through the time of year where almost everybody's totally healthy. Yeah, it is. I think it is I think when we get sick, essentially it is our body purging a lot of bad crap in us. My mom, she likes to send me a ton of vitamins, and she'll be like, "Do you need more of the multivitamin?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, could you please send me a multivitamin?" But then she'll send the multivitamin plus 15 other bottles of different vitamins. And I don't like taking pills, and it's just, this is my mom, she loves her vitamins. She swallows like 40 at a time. Thank God she's not on any pharmaceutical pills, but she takes a lot of vitamins. But to me, it's overkill. But yeah, what I was going to say is sometimes, because she'll send me so many vitamins, it's happened to me a lot of times, and then I get mad, and sometimes I wonder if the vitamins are hurting me. But I think actually what's going on is, like, I'll take a whole bunch of vitamins at once because she sent them all to me. It's probably happened like 3 or 4 times where I normally just take a multivitamin, go about my normal way, but then sometimes she'll send all these vitamins, so I'll take a whole bunch, and then it'll just be like days later, I'll get a cold. And I'd get annoyed and think, it's something about taking all these vitamins is what made me sick, because I wasn't sick until I just took all these vitamins. But maybe it's actually like your body's getting cleaned out. It triggers some process in your body, and maybe you need to have that little head cold for a day or 2 days or 3 days. And like my mom, she'll be like, "Well, if you were just taking them all the time, you wouldn't get sick like that." And I'm just like, well, I'm not getting sick until I'm taking all these vitamins. But yeah, it would be interesting to just find out what's exactly going on in the body. Why are the vitamins seemingly also triggering illness? And it could also just be something about, your body, it regulates, it gets used to a normal thing. And then when you mess with that normal cycle, maybe something overcompensates or something undercompensates. I don't know. That's why I just like to stay in my normal regimen, get enough sleep. I pretty much eat the same plain basic diet. I'm eating the same foods all the time. And I do think it's good to have a multivitamin because, again, a lot of the foods that we eat are mineral deficient. They say that, because of all the years of factory farming, the ground's been torn up all across the nation and the minerals have been stripped and those minerals are no longer in the food. So I think ultimately that was the point I was trying to get into, why it's good to have a good multivitamin. Make sure it's an organic brand. I'm not sure about, like, if it's cheap and it's chewable and gummy and flavored, there is something to you get what you paid for. Of course, there is something that sometimes things are a really great value, and it's like it is the deal because they got the best price and the best quality. Those things exist in the world, but again, if you're buying some really cheap multivitamin, it's probably, it might even be more toxic than good. So do some research, but I do suggest people have a multivitamin. Make sure, because again, a lot of you guys, you look at your diet, you might be sustained and living because there's enough calories in your body to keep your motor burning, but you might also be, missing trace elements and minerals that would make everything more optimal. It's just like, when you put Supreme gasoline in your car, it has a better response time, right? If you've never put Supreme in your car, you just feel the difference. You feel the difference. It's just like the gas pedal, it's more responsive. It feels better. It feels smoother. It feels like your car runs smoother. It runs fine on 87 octane, or God, now that I realize in some of these higher altitude places, it's like they got I forget, Wyoming's got 83 octane or something like that, because it's way up in the air. But if you drive that 83 octane down at lower levels, it can blow up your engine. But anyway, most of the country, the lowest is 87, and that's what I always put in my car. I mean, it is nicer to drive with Supreme and feel the extra smoothness but I always drive Toyotas, and Toyota says just drive 87. Our engines are meant to last forever on 87. But yeah, I'm just trying to create an analogy. It's like maybe you're just used to running on 87, right? And you've never experienced Supreme, so you didn't realize how much higher you could function. You're like, wow, I feel a lot better. My energy levels are a lot better. And I want to close out with one more point about that. When I was watching one of these autophagy broadcasts, I got to get off here in a minute. When I was watching one of these broadcasts on autophagy, what blew me away was they were explaining why vegans have more energy typically. And when I heard this, my ears perked up because I remember when I was perfectly vegan, I did have more energy, and I used to talk about it because I didn't need to sleep that long. I was always the kind of person before I was vegan where I wanted at least 8 hours of sleep. I could go on 6, 7, but I like to sleep for 8 hours. I felt optimal when I slept for 8 hours. And when I became vegan, I found that I couldn't even sleep for that long, but I felt great. And I'd wake up after 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, in those windows all the time. And I would just feel ready to go. No drag, I got plenty of sleep. And from watching the autophagy videos, what they're explaining that is happening in vegans is because they don't have as much protein in their diet from all the animal proteins, their body's triggering the autophagy process a lot more to create its own protein from essentially the bad crap that's not supposed to be in your body. But when your body's doing that, it's like all your cells are vibrating at a higher level. So you feel cleaner, clearer, more energetic. And, somebody might try being vegan and not have this same response. Again, all of us are a little bit different. I think that's why when you read books like The Blood Type Diet, you start to be reminded okay, we're not all the same. That's why some people, this works for them, but other people, it does not. But for me, it was that way. And it almost, So Sweet Lady feels that she needs a little bit of meat and animal protein in her diet, and to be agreeable, we eat pretty much the exact same way. Sometimes she'll eat something I'm like, I don't want to eat that. You can have that. And, but yeah, again, for all the people that think the vegan diet is the new world order diet because they are starting to produce a lot more plant-based and imitation meat, Again, they're doing everything on their scale, you guys. But to call the vegan diet the New World Order diet, it's really a short-term perspective. I mean, the New World Order diet's been getting everybody on processed, cheap food, addictive snacks, junk food, McDonald's. That's the New World Order diet, and it is very animal protein based. So yeah, when I see people leaving these comments that, Zach, anytime you talk about that, you're just promoting the New World Order. No, you guys, I'm promoting what I can tell you about my own life experience. I've always been a healthy person, things that have worked out for me. And yeah, I mean, you can experiment with it yourself and see what happened. But to call the vegan diet the New World Order diet, I mean, it's been like the most demonized diet in America for the entire time I've been growing up. My brother-in-law, who's a doctor, just reminded you what he used to call it. He called it the FAG diet. You know, he'd say, you eat a FAG diet, back when I was a teenager when I was doing this. I read about nutrition as a teenager and started experimenting, and I was completely vegan from, I don't know, 18, 19-ish to my early 20s without breaking the rules. And, you know, very healthy in that period of time. So anyway, we'll leave it there, you guys. I do got to make dinner, and I don't have a stand yet to make my meals with you. So, but maybe I'll get one, and we'll start doing that. We'll talk about food. We'll talk about what's going on in the world until I get a desk set back up, which hopefully will be sooner than later.